guys, Mr. Edwards here, Centreville High School Automotive Technology. Today I'm working on a 2009 Volkswagen Rabbit, and it's losing air out of a tire. Now, 9 times out of 10, that means you probably ran over something going down the road, you got a nail in the tire, that's why it's losing air. However, there is other places a tire can lose air. It can lose air around the rim, where the bead meets up with the rim, bead of the tire meets up with the rim, or it can lose air around the valve stem, where you add and remove air from the tire. In this case, when I first saw this car had a flat tire, was drawn to look to those locations first, because this car has brand new tires on it. And by brand new, I mean they've never left the parking lot here. So the likelihood of them having a nail, not extremely high. So I'm going to show you guys how to check those locations for a leak, and if you have one, how to fix it.
So with our tire here, now it obviously has air in it, but I can promise you guys when I came up to it, it was flat, like flat. And if you guys go to leak check a tire that has no air in it, I can promise you're not going to find a leak, because if it's flat, there's no air coming out of it anymore. So make sure you guys air the tire up to the proper PSI on the door sticker, which we did here, and now we'll be able to check for a leak. The first thing I'm going to check is just right here around the valve stem, which on this case, it's a metal valve stem for a tire pressure monitoring sensor. And I'll spray that with a little bit of simple green soap. I'll take the cap off and spray the valve core in there. See if it starts bubbling. If you see bubbles coming out of the inside of there, that means the little rubber seal on your valve core is bad. If you see bubbles coming out around the sensor, like that right there, that means that there's a rubber seal that's actually around the metal valve stem here. And those do go bad. Rubber breaks down over time. You got a couple options in this case. Either way, you got to take the tire off the rim and take the sensor off the rim, which I'll show you guys how to do here in a minute. And you could either replace this whole sensor, which is not very cheap, and you have to have a special tool to program it to the car and everything from there, or you can replace just that rubber seal that's inside of there, which is what we're going to do on this one right here. And hopefully be able to save this sensor so we don't have to put a ridiculous amount of money into repairing this leak. Let's get this tire off the car and go from there. Gotta love tires on European cars. The lug nut is part of the stud. Wheel falls right off the car. Terrific. So my car is safely supported on jack stands. I got my wheel off the car. We're going to roll it over here to a tire machine, get the tire separated from the rim so we can get our TPMS sensor out. Over here at the tire machine, obviously to separate the tire from the rim, I need to get the air out of my tire, so I'm going to go ahead and take that valve core out. Once all the air's out of our tire, we're going to bring it over here and break the bead on it. Obviously, because I'm trying to fix this sensor and stop it from leaking and not replace the sensor, I don't want to damage it any worse. So anytime we break the bead on the tire, we want to avoid being anywhere near the valve stem so we don't smash our tire pressure sensor. I'm only going to break the top bead, the outer side of the rim, because I'm going to show you guys a pretty cool little trick here in a minute. That trick will save you some time if you're doing something like this. Lift it up here and get it centered up and mounted on our machine. Just like that. Now, our tire machine has these rollers that are on it. One for the top, one for the bottom. I'm going to show you how they work in a minute. They got a little control arm up there that controls them, but they go up and down and they can be used to squeeze the tire. We're going to use that top roller to squeeze the top of our tire down so that we can take our tire pressure sensor off and out and not have to take the whole tire off the rim. Show you how that works. So these rollers swing down, and then there's two buttons up on the top here. The one on the right hand side, took a minute, raises up the bottom roller, if you guys saw that. The one on the left hand side lowers the top one, and then you just pull them back out to raise it back up or lower it back down, depending on which one it is. So I'm going to come over here, step on my pedal, swing my tire around to where I broke the bead on it. I can adjust this roller. See how when it came down, it hit like right in the middle of the tire? I want to get it closer to the rim if I can. The way I adjust them, moving this handle in and out. So I'm going to try to get it closer to the rim, a little bit closer, just like that. And then the more I push on this button, you'll hear it, it squeezes that tire down. I'll roll it around here and get right past the sensor where it's at there, and then squeeze the tire down some so that I can reach inside the rim here and access my tire pressure sensor. And now, as you guys can see, I got the roller holding the tire down for me, and there's my tire pressure sensor coming up to the valve stem. I got to take that nut. It's probably like a 12 millimeter just by eyeballing it. Most of them are 12 or 13. I got to take that nut off of there, and then we should be able to slide our sensor out. Let's go ahead and do that. It's a 12 millimeter, so we're going to come in here. It should not be tight. Now, as this nut loosens up on here, I'm going to spin it off, and I want to hold on to the sensor inside the rim here, because if it falls down inside the tire, which it easily could, we're taking the whole tire off the rim to fish it out. And we're trying to avoid having to do that. I'm showing you guys a little trick here. Alright, so I got the nut off, obviously. I'm going to set that off to the side. We're going to have a new one of those anyway, along with my ratchet. I'm holding on to the sensor. I'm going to give the valve stem a little push, and this thing's actually held in here, so we're going to have to wiggle it out. Use our roller, lower the tire down a little bit more, give myself a little bit more working room. And with a little bit of wiggling, it'll pop out. Now again, like I said, be careful. Don't let this thing fall down in that hole inside the tire. Oh boy. So there's a seal that, hopefully that focuses for you guys. There's a seal in my hand here that goes through the hole in the rim that the valve stem goes through. And it's in pieces, and it's not supposed to be. That's all rotted out and broken up. And then the sensor itself has a rubber seal on it. And it, like I said, that's why it was so stuck in there and we had to wiggle and wiggle on it. It is absolutely just corroded. So we're going to try to clean this up. We're also going to have to clean the rim up. I'm going to get a little wire brush and get in there, because this corrosion is what's causing it to leak. So on the table, here's what we got. Here's our sensor, all nice and corroded up. It's got a little metal ring, and then on top of the metal ring, which is completely covered by corrosion, is a little rubber seal. And the upper lip of that rubber seal is right here, or what's left of it. In this bag here is a kit for one of these sensors. It comes with a new nut, new cap, new valve core, that metal ring that I just showed you, and that rubber seal in actually one piece, which is nice, because, you know, ours is not. I'm going to open this kit up here. Get all this stuff out of here. A new sensor, in general, I mean, it's going to vary depending on the car, obviously, and the brand of sensor you get and everything. But a new sensor will cost you to install and program anywhere from $50 to $250. If you get it done at a shop, the majority of that cost is going to be the programming because that's labor. This kit costs $6. $6 for a kit and rebuilding it, hopefully, compared to 60, 160, 260. I like that more. So let's give this a shot here. First thing I want to do is try to pop what's left of the seal off of here. I just got a little pocket screwdriver that I'm using. I'm going to try to work this up. I have to be really careful though, because this is a plastic sensor with a metal valve stem. What do you think's stronger, metal or plastic? It could easily snap the valve stem off the sensor. If I do that, this is all garbage. And then I do have to spend the big bucks. And this thing is so corroded on there. I'll hold it where you guys can see as I just slowly work my way around it, trying to work it loose. And I might even go grab a razor blade and cut what's left of this rubber on here. Let me focus again for you guys. I might cut what's left of this rubber, so hopefully this, because you can see the metal ring is pushing on it right now. Gotta be careful. So like I said, I'm taking a high-tech tool here called a razor blade, and I'm just trying to, because this rubber lip is so corroded, I'm just trying to cut it away from the sensor. Obviously, I don't want to gouge into the sensor, into the valve stem itself, or the sensor, because that'll damage it. But I'm just trying to work it away from the valve stem here. Obviously being careful not to slice off a finger. Alright. I gave that a little bit of working and breaking loose. Let's try to work this metal lip up. Also, pay attention to how this metal lip is on here. See how it's got one part that's wider than the upper part of it? That's so that it can fit up inside the rim when it's mounted up like this. So I want to make sure that when I put the new one on, that I'm putting the widest part all the way on the bottom. Same thing with the rubber O-ring. So now that I got it pried up and away from my plastic sensor some, I took a pair of small side cutters and made a couple little cuts in it. Not completely through it, because I don't want to damage the threads on my valve stem or anything, but just enough to weaken it so that hopefully I can take it just like that, pull it straight off. And you guys can see, this thing is just, of course I damaged it some, but over here on the other side, this is supposed to be nice soft rubber to seal the sensor, and it is just corroded and rotted all the way. So now, I've got my bare sensor and metal valve stem here. I'm going to clean this off real good. I'm going to take a wire brush here in a minute and get up inside the rim where that's all corroded too, I'm quite sure. So let's rebuild our sensor here. Let me wipe it down. So the first thing that's going to slide on here is my new metal ring with that wider lip at the bottom, just like we talked about. Followed by my rubber O-ring that's actually in one piece. I'm going to have to work that down a little bit. And after a little bit of working, I've got my metal ring all the way slid down, the rubber O-ring all the way down. We'll go ahead and clean up the rim, get this put back in, and then see what we got. So to clean up the rim, I'm using a wire brush that's really meant for battery terminals, but should work. That should be good. So now I'm going to bring my rebuilt sensor back over here, along with my new nut for it, my new cap and valve core, which we'll need here in a minute, hopefully. Set those off to the side for the moment, and we'll get this started back up in here. Again, being careful not to drop the thing, because if we drop it down in the tire, we just created more work for ourselves, like I said. And we'll get the nut started on there. Just tighten it down by hand first. Just like with anything else, we never start it with a tool because we could damage it. And then 12 millimeter, so it's snug. This, again, metal valve stem, plastic sensor. The metal will win if you force it to. So I'm not cranking down on this thing till it breaks off with the plastic sensor. I'm not giving it the ugga-duggas. I'm just getting it snug so that O-ring can seal. And when it gets tight, you'll be able to feel it. And I'm just going to go quarter turn. That's it. That's tight. It does not need to be muscled on there. Now this next part's going to go pretty quick. First thing I'm going to do while I got my bead pressed down is come around here with some Simple Green and spray it so that it's good and lubricated for when I go to seat the beads back. And now I'm going to let my roller up, swing those out of the way, bring my hose down. And seat my beads. Going to give this a spray and let it sit there for a minute and see if it starts bubbling while we put our valve core in. Got our new valve core up top here. We'll grab our valve core tool. Put my new valve core in the valve core tool. And quick switch. Again, with a valve core, if you guys remember doing tires, you gotta get it tight. Quarter turn. That's all we need. Tool away. Let's check our tire pressure and see. I'll let a little out actually. I'll be right about 32. Perfect. And the moment of truth. Are we still leaking? So I sprayed it and let it sit there while I was putting the valve core in, and then just sprayed it again. Notice, no bubbles. I'll grab my flashlight and shine it on there so you guys can see even better. No bubbles coming out around the sensor, no bubbles coming out of the valve core. That's a win. Shine that off to the side so it doesn't reflect too bad on you guys, but no more bubbles coming out around there. So we fixed this leaking tire. Now go ahead and take it back off the tire machine here. Now, remember, anytime that you guys take a tire off the rim, even just separate it from the rim, that potentially moves it just enough that it can throw the balance off. So anytime that you guys do something like this, you want to go ahead and balance the tire afterwards, just so we don't have any issues, especially with brand new tires like these. We don't have any issues with the customer not being happy with the ride quality of their tires. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this on the balancer there. I'm not going to spend your guys' time in this video showing you that, but that's what I'm headed to do next. Then we'll take it back over to the car, put it back on, and send them down the road.
Alright guys, that's it. We got the tire pressure monitor sensor rebuilt and not leaking on this 2009 Volkswagen Rabbit. Cost a lot less than having to replace that sensor, which is what a lot of people would do, and cost an arm and a leg. So a $6 rebuild kit versus a much more expensive sensor is definitely the way to go in this case. I thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you fill out the questions that go along with it, and we will talk soon. Thanks, guys.